Yo, what up, High and Wide fam? It's Delco Dave. I'm joined by official legend Paul Devorski. He was happy to join us after today's Flyers Maple Leafs games. Paul, how you doing tonight, man?
I'm good, guys. I'm good. I'm just in my car home, driving home to Hershey.
Well, we appreciate you taking the time to hang out with us for a little bit, man. We actually, before we even got started, we had a few comments come in on the YouTube channel from Don Vito. He mentioned you getting to officiate two of the greatest Stanley Cup finals ever, 2008 and 2009, the Pittsburgh-Detroit series.
Yeah, that was the one went Game 7 in Detroit. I remember that.
Yeah, man. How'd you so back-to-back Stanley Cup finals, and they were two great games, man. You had some great memories from those?
Uh, I do remember that Game 7 because uh, Philadelphia was, or it wasn't, whoever was playing Pittsburgh. They were just about to tie it up with about 10 seconds ago, and the goalie came over and made a huge save. And the next thing you know, game was over, and uh, I guess Pittsburgh was out on the ice celebrating, and I had my son there, who at the time was only 12 years old. And after I got undressed and put my shirt and tie on, the guy let me go on the ice with the Penguins while they were celebrating with the cup.
Oh, that's awesome, man.
Yeah, Billy Garrett and Marilyn Mew both came over and gave me a big hug. And then I looked at my son. I says, "Lukey, we better get out of here, or I'm gonna get in shit."
Oh, that's awesome. That's such a great memory, man. So,
Yeah,
so you were in Philly for the game tonight?
yeah, yeah. I drove down, and I'm driving home now.
So what do you?
Actually, guys, there was only 3 penalties tonight, and I must say, I mean, they probably could have called one more, but that was about it. I mean, these two teams just played hockey tonight.
Yeah, it seemed like a pretty clean game, and I think it was a pretty good effort by the Flyers overall. I mean, their season's been done for a while now, but they put a pretty strong effort out there tonight against a Maple Leafs team that's still battling for playoff position. What do you think of the Flyers' performance tonight?
Well, they definitely outplayed them in the first, and then Toronto kind of regrouped in the second, and then in the third, Toronto kind of took over, with a few extra goals, and then they made it 6-3, and you know.
Yeah,
But
I
you
think
know what?
that's just one.
I feel. Go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, I feel like that's just like talent winning out. Like the effort was there from the Flyers, but Toronto's just a better team. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, and then these Matthews gets his 51st goal. So
Yeah, there's only so much that heart and effort can do for you when you're playing with a team that's so much more talented. But but no, like I said, I think the Flyers put a lot of fight tonight. I think the big story coming into the game, and I'm curious to get your opinion on it, was Keith Yandle's streak coming to an end as a healthy scratch. There's a lot of talk about that coming in. How do you feel about them sitting Yandle, at 989 games?
you know what? If he would have done another 11 games, he would have got to 1,000. And you know what? I mean, now who's the kid that the Kessel's chasing him? He's got a chance to catch him next year now.
Yep.
So you know what? I would have let Keith Yandel play the rest of the season out. Their last 11 games or whatever. You know.
Yeah, that seems like the majority of former players and NHL professionals seem to be leaning that way. That they should have just let Yandle play it out. There was nothing else the team was playing for, so why sit him now? It just seemed like odd timing overall.
No, and I think just talking to a bunch of people tonight, they were kind of upset. They were kind of hoping Keith would, still be out there playing.
And I think part of that has to do with Yandle's reputation around the league. I haven't heard a single player say a bad word about him or anybody, player, coach, even people that haven't played with him. It seems like Yandle's just so well respected across the league.
Yeah, he sure is. And I mean that's an accomplishment that he got that far. How many games that he's had in a row. So,
Did you have any personal interactions with Yandel?
oh, I mean, you always talk to him, and I gotta say he never had a bad word to say. I mean, he was always, like I'd go up and pat him on the ass and tell him have a good game. And he go, hey, thanks, Devo. Good to see you. And but he never really bitched and chewed at the refs. That's for sure.
Man, he used to be well liked, I guess. Then.
Yeah.
So about about your career, Paul. You actually officiated your last game at the Wells Fargo Center, right?
Yeah, I got to that year. I got to pick my last three games. So I went to Toronto because I was born about an hour outside of Toronto, and some of my family got to come. And then I went out to San Jose because that's where my wife's from. And then I picked Philadelphia because like I just always loved working there, and the fans were always into it. And even that game, they were going to do at the end of the first, they were going to do something up on the jumbotron for me, and they called me over and says, Devo, listen, we're going to hold off till the next period. Uh, well, and I knew why, because the first four penalties of the game went against Philadelphia, and they were playing Pittsburgh. And I started to get the ref you suck chant in my last game. And but as it was, I got a pretty good ovation at the end of the game. Both teams came over and shook my hand, and the coaches came down, had a beer in the room with us after the game. And yeah, it was good.
That's awesome that they called the audible in the middle of the game. Like, hey, listen, man, we're gonna go ahead and hold this off for a little
Yeah, fans were a little upset.
bit. But it's nice to hear some positivity about the Flyers fan base, man. Normally everybody's
Oh,
just crapping all over us.
well, you know what? I mean, I get down to Philly so often now, and I love when they put the fans up on the jumbotron, and they're up there dancing, and even the little kids, they just love it. They're just waiting to get their faces on that. I mean, it's a real good and family environment.
Man, I love to hear that positivity, man. I'm so used to. I try to be a beacon of positivity when it comes to this stuff, even in bad seasons like this. And I feel like I'm just surrounded by negativity. So it's nice to have you come on here and talk some good stuff up about the Flyers fan base.
Yeah,
So
go ahead. Yep.
no, I was gonna say. So, Paul, how'd you get into? When did you start officiating? Like, how did you? What was your start in officiating? I'm assuming you played hockey at first, right? And then you must have decided to make the transition.
Well, I played 4 years junior A up in Canada, up in Guelph, and one year we won the Centennial Cup, which was the championship for Canada uh, for junior A. And on that team was with me was George McPhee, Brian McClellan, the GM of Washington, and Brian Hayward was our goalie. And they all went on to be players in the NHL. And then I went on and played 3 more years of senior hockey, and then hung them up. And then I just decided to keep involved in the game. My dad was a referee for like 35 years. So I just joined the OHA and started refereeing.
Oh, no. So your dad ref for over 3 decades?
Yeah, he did. He even refereed me in junior A and threw me out of the game one night.
Oh,
And
that had to be great.
and from that point on, he told the whoever his boss was, please do not give me any more of my son's games. It's makes it too tough at home after the game.
Yeah, that probably makes for some awkward dinner conversation.
Oh yeah, I would. A couple of times I wouldn't talk to him for a week. I was so pissed off at him.
I we recently had Dave Jackson on for an episode too, and
Oh
I was
yeah,
telling him I was telling him that I refed one game. I went to like a whole camp and training session to be like an official hockey referee with USA
right.
Hockey, all that stuff. I
Uh
lasted
huh.
one mite game. I
Are you
had parents,
serious?
yeah, I had parents yelling at me. I had coaches yelling at me. I had a 5-year-old curse at me. I left the game. I was like, I'm never doing this again. I don't know how anybody does this.
Oh jeez,
Uh,
that's funny.
yeah, but he mentioned that like, hey, like there needs to be more like structure and like support for the young referees because he's like, hey, like young referees are leaving the game so quickly all the time. They're just disappearing because there's not a support system. What do you think about that for like young officials coming up? What do you think about the training and the support they have as they're getting started?
Well, it's actually great because I got to give the NHL credit. My boss, he we have a combine every summer in Buffalo, and
Mm-hmm.
what we do is we bring in about anywhere between 60 and 70 uh, guys, and even girls. We've had a few girls come in, and they all come in, and they've all just finished playing the American League, Division One hockey, and they're all done playing, and they all want to try to referee, and they come to this combine, and that's where we're finding all our new refs.
Okay, so as everybody hangs it up in like the minor leagues, basically, is when they're coming to this combine, and that's where you're like, that's where you're building the foundation right there.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I mean, that we're getting all our guys, and even a couple of girls that we've hired in the American League. They're all they've all they're all ex players now, you know, and it makes good because for the hockey because they all know the rules and all can skate good, you know.
Yeah, I mean that's obviously huge as far as keeping up with this game with how fast it's become. Um, but so what do you think about with the way everything's going? With how skilled and how quick the games come. What do you think about how much they're getting the video replay and the video review involved? I've always kind of been a fan of human error is part of the game. And it's so hard to make the split second decisions. I feel like it almost puts the officials under a microscope when a simple offsides call that could be missed by millimeters, is overturned, via video review. What do you think about how involved video reviews coming, man?
I think our guys like it, you know, because like when they call a 5 minute major now, and they're quite not sure. They can go and look at the call at the penalty box, you know, and whether whoever they're talking to, who's ever in the war room that night, there's always an ex referee on the headset. They walk them through it, and then they go look at it and go, oh, geez, you know, maybe it's only a two. Like maybe we should just give two, and then they reduce it to two, and basically we get the right call made, you know. And I like it for the goaltender interference. I mean, the coaches like it because they can challenge now, and usually when they challenge, most of the time they win the challenge. Like not very often do they challenge when it's like a 50-50 call.
No, so you mentioned the war room. So how exactly is the war room? Is there just one guy that handles all the reviews for every single game that night, or do they have like a couple different guys that are up there handling each, are games divvied up, or is it just one like guy that's handling everything? Oh, I think we lost you, Paul. All right, Paul. We lost your mic somehow. I'm not sure what happened, man. All right. Well, we'll give Paul a chance to get back on here. I can see he's okay for everybody anybody that's worried about it. He seems like he's all right. Just the mic's disconnected somehow. Um, but quick recap while we're waiting for Paul to get back. Flyers dropped it 6-3 to the Maple Leafs. Hayes probably looked great tonight. So did Provorov. They both helped each other out with a couple goals. Unfortunately, Toronto is just a more talented team and managed to pull it out. There's a reason they're competing for a playoff spot, and the Flyers are competing for a lottery draft pick. Oh, we got our boy Jackie over here chiming in saying we could have used Yandel tonight. I bet he would have been a huge help in this 6-3 loss. Oh, Paul, you back?
Yeah, I don't know what happened. Somebody tried to phone me, and I clicked off, and I lost you.
Oh no, it's all good. I'm glad you're back though, because I can only monologue so long off the cuff. But oh no, I was asking about the war room and about how that's broken down these days. Is there
Okay.
one person that handles all the games, or is there a couple different people? How's the war room work down when an official has to go talk to them?
Well, like I don't know who's in there tonight, but they're definitely an ex-official in there. But depending on how many games are, there's a logger. There's a logger for each game, and they log down any missed calls or whatever, and then we have three guys sitting up front, like Chris King, could be in there, Rod Pasma, and they all help out on all the challenges too with the ex-referee. So yeah, there could be anywhere between 12 to 15 guys in that room on a given night. So there's lots of input up there. You know?
And they're all ex officials, 12 to 15 ex officials that have worked games in the NHL.
No, they're not all ex-officials. I mean, the guy that's in the war room is an ex-official, but the guys doing the logging, they're they they just they know what a penalty is, and then and our guys walk around and help them out and talk to them, and they'll say, "Hey, Devo, what do you think? Is this a missed call or whatever?" And I'll say, "Yeah, definitely." So.
All right. So I was trying to look up before the show to see how many games you actually officiated for how many Flyers games you actually officiated, and
Oh.
it's actually a pretty hard stat to find. You just get total games and all that stuff. So I'm just curious. We just traded away our longtime captain Claude Giroux, and I just kind of wanted to ask you: did you have any memorable moments or any memorable games that you officiated with G?
Well, my last game, I got him and Jake Voracek both came down to my room with a signed stick after the game and came in and just wanted to wish me all the best. Just really two class act guys, and it was good because I did a lot of their games over the years. You know, so but yeah, they Claude Giroux was a classy guy. You know.
Yeah, I think a lot of the fan base seemed to be kind of split about him getting traded, but there's a lot of people that truly thought that there was a missed opportunity for the Flyers with him being here. We feel like he was a lot of people felt like he was a superstar that just never had a team built around him.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm glad the Flyers, traded him, and they traded him to a place where him and his wife wanted to be. They wanted to go to Florida because I actually heard today that there was better offers from other teams, but the fact that Giroux's family wanted to go to Florida, so that's where he ended up going. So good for him, and you know what? He's going to a good team and who has a shot at winning the cup.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, they did right by him too. That I think it was a big deal that he wanted to play 1,000 games here with the Flyers, and they made sure he got his 1,000 game. They made it a huge deal about that. And then, and you mentioned there being other offers or better offers from other teams, and part of what we heard, over here in the Philadelphia, fan base and media network is that he asked for reassurances that he could come back in the off season, didn't get those reassurances, and then basically said, "Well, I only want to go to Florida then." So I don't know I don't know if you heard that or how much you know about that, but it sounded like he basically, like I said, he wanted to come back. They said, "Oh, we don't know if we can do that," and he said, "Well, then I only want to go to Florida," and that's why they ended up making a deal like that.
Well, and that's what we talked about tonight. Like, I got a real good feeling that, he may play a couple years in Florida, but he'd probably like to come back and retire as a Flyer. You know?
Oh, I mean, I think he would have come back in the offseason no matter what if he had known for sure that he was coming back. I think he wanted a little like handshake, like, "Yep, when the offseason hits, we'll bring you back." But it sounded like he didn't get those reassurances, and then he's like, "Well, then."
Oh, I got you. I see.
Yeah, so he was like, "Hey, if I'm not getting these reassurances, I only want to go to Florida because I think that might be where he's going to be sticking around for a few years." So,
Yeah.
like, I think if he knew, like, "Hey, listen, if I get traded, I won't resign, and then we can come back and talk about this." If he had got, a little bit more commitment on the Flyers end, he may have, returned, or he may have been open to, other teams, to going to different teams. But because they said, "Hey, we don't know if we're going to be able to bring you back," he said, "Well, then I just want to go to Florida." So I think that was a key factor in him ending up down there in South Florida.
Oh, okay. Yeah, could be, but I just got something in my gut tells me that he's going to retire as a Flyer. You know what I mean? Like, he'll go and try and win a cup somewhere else, and then come back.
Yeah, I think he's going to end up back here in Philly no matter what. Even if it's just for one season or whatever. But yeah, I think he comes back and ends up hanging it up here in Philly. So, Paul, actually, I want to ask you, man. What's one of your most memorable interactions with any player, present or retired, as far as an official? I'm always fascinated by the officials and their role they play, and just the interactions they get to have, man. So, like, who's like a player that either you enjoyed or didn't enjoy officiating with, either in the game or just a memorable interaction you had with somebody?
Oh my God, I had so many good ones. Uh, like Billy Guerin, Mario Lemieux, like such classy guys, good guys on the ice, and they come by and pat you on the ass and say, "Hey, Devo, have a good game," good to see you, and stuff like that. I always had really good rapport with the players and even the coaches, you know. Like, I remember the one night John Tortorella was just going nuts at me because I had put his team down 5-on-3 for 7 minutes.
Oh,
Now, have you ever? Yeah, exactly. Two guys on their team, and one took 7 minutes, 5-2, and he's looking at me, screaming at me, and da da da. And he says, "Come on, throw me out. Just throw me out." And he says, "You don't have the balls to throw me out." I says, "Yes, I do, John." I says, "But I'm going to keep you. I'm going to keep you around because I want to see your face when your team gets their ass kicked." And, and he just kind of looked at me, and I think they only scored like one goal on the 5-on-3 7-minute power play. But it was funny. Whenever I saw him next, he called me over to the start of the game, and he looked at me. He said, "Steve, are we cool? We're cool, right?" I go, "John, it's all forgotten, buddy." I just relax. So he shook my hand, and then away we went. So, but just stuff like that. Like I always had a good rapport with coaches and players. You know,
Uh,
like somebody says, about your, how'd you like your job? I says, you know what? I don't think I worked a day in my life as a referee because we enjoy what we do. And you go out there and the guys work their ass off, get a good sweat on, and you leave everything out there. And hopefully at the end of the night, nobody's mad at you and you made all the right calls. And but like yeah, like I don't think I worked a day of my. The toughest part as a referee was the travel. You know, like uh, you'd miss weddings because you miss your flight. You miss birthdays because you're on the road and stuff like that. But traveling was the toughest part of our job.
yeah, I bet, man. Travel's tough, man. I mean, I dealt with travel things and missed out on things. I was in the Army Reserves and did 3 deployments, so you miss out on a lot of things like that. When you're just gone for long periods of time, and and then I've actually one thing I think is kind of interesting is you talked about how you had an interaction with John Tortorella, and then the next time you saw him, he asked if you guys were cool. Um, well, when I was in between deployments, I was a corrections officer, and one of the things
Oh,
with that
okay.
is, yeah, one of the things with that is that like you'll have an interaction with somebody that dealing with certain people, you have one bad day with them, right? You come in and see them the next day, they're like, hey man, like look, I hope everything's okay. It's like, yeah, no, we're fine. It's a new day, and it's one thing I think that kind of relates to officiating. After the game's over, you forget about it, you move on. And I feel like that's the same thing like with what I was doing as a corrections officer. Once that shift's over, you move on. You come back the next day, it's a new day. So I think that's a unique kind of perspective you have on things where you have to have a short memory.
Yeah. Uh, I remember one. Like you usually don't take the game home with you, but I remember one night it was Washington and Philly playing in Game 7 of the playoffs. All right,
Mm-hmm.
and George McPhee is the GM of Washington, and him and I was the best man at his wedding, which I never made it. I got there late, so Pat Quinn had to stand in for me because my plane was late, and he gave me shit when I got there. So, anyways, I'm doing this game, and at the time, Bruce Boudreau is the coach of Washington. Well, Bruce just happened to buy a house on my street in Hershey because he was coaching Hershey before he got called up to Washington. So, anyways, I got my two buddies, two friends, doing Game 7, Washington, Philly, and game goes on. Great game, great game. We go into overtime. And don't you know it? I have to call a penalty against Washington. Oh, and guess what? Philadelphia scores the winning goal, and I honestly like. I'm driving home after the game that night, and I'm almost in tears. I'm so upset, thinking that I've upset George and Bruce. And I got home, and I just, went to bed. It's fun. The next day, I my doorbell rings. It's 11 in the morning. I open the front door. It's Bruce Boudreau. Sticks out his hand. Says, "Hey, bub, we're still friends, eh?" I could. I couldn't believe it. I mean, it made me feel. And then George called me and he said, "Hey, Dookie, don't worry about it. Listen, it's part of the game." And like I just felt so bad that night, that I thought I had let down my two friends, but they knew I was just calling the game.
Well, I mean, that's awesome to them. You had a job to do. Um, I'm curious about that wedding. So George McPhee, Pat Quinn, you were going to be. That sounds like a who's who of hockey. Who else was going to be at that damn wedding?
I don't know who else was there. He probably had a bunch of guys there because he played with so many guys, and
Yeah,
I know Brian McClellan was there, and all the uh, all the owners of the Washington Capitals were there, and uh, a bunch of the trainers from the Caps were there. So yeah, it was a fun time.
sounds like a red carpet affair.
Yeah, it was.
So, George McPhee called you up, and he called you Dookie, and some people call you Devo. How many nicknames do you have, Paul?
I have three.
All right.
My
Well,
my my
what's the third
my,
one?
my first one. I don't know who gave it to me, but they called me Dork. Like, oh, I know who it was. It was Joe Holiday. He was the owner of our. He was the owner of our junior A hockey team, and he grew up with my dad. And I don't know what I did. Something dumb on the ice. And he says, "Paul, you're nothing but a freaking dork." Well, the guys heard it, and they just stuck with it. And then I don't know how I got Dookie. It was probably because I when I played junior, I fought a lot, so I was always duking. And then I got stuck with Dookie. And then when I got into the NHL, I got stuck with Devo. So yeah, that's the only three I got.
You're like the Apollo Creed of NHL officials.
Well, thank you.
So you mentioned you were fighting in the juniors. You have anybody memorable that you fought?
What was that? Sorry, I didn't hear that.
I know. I said you mentioned you were fighting a lot in the juniors. Anybody that you fought that was memorable?
Uh, I remember fighting in senior A. They had this Cambridge team. They had these two great big twins, and they were called the Peace Boys. And I remember one night I had to fight the two of them at the same time.
What?
And yeah, yeah, it was crazy. They both came at me, and I'm wailing away. And oh, yeah, I was funny tonight. I ran into Brendan Shanahan at the start of the game, and he says, "Oh, Devo," he says, "you're all over the TV up there in Detroit last week because of that game in Colorado and Detroit."
Oh
And
yeah,
I don't remember that one.
yeah. We actually just had Darren McCarty on the show too.
Oh, Darren. Yeah. To this day, he looks at me. He saw me in Detroit one night, came over and gave me a big hug, sat down beside me, and we just started chit chatting, and he says he never forgets that night against Colorado.
Yeah, we talked about it. It was I think like 2 weeks ago we had him on. He was awesome, man. He's absolutely hilarious, and he was so great. He was driving back from the game too, and he popped on the link real quick. He goes, "Hey, listen, guys, look. I'll be back in the house in like 5 minutes. Give me like 5 minutes, and I'll be on." And he drops off. Right? I'm like, "All right, cool. Like we're gonna wait for you. Like it's fine. Like you're Darren McCarty. We're not gonna rush this." So like 5 minutes goes by, he jumps on and like he immediately goes into like promo mode, like, "Oh yeah, like Philly game winning goal, 97 finals, yeah, that's right, shout out ECW, Tommy Jimmy, that's right." I'm like, we're like, "Go, Darren, settle down, we're not even live yet." He's like, "Oh, we haven't gone live yet?" We're like, "No, not yet, man." He goes, "Oh, okay."
Uh,
Yeah,
yeah,
he was.
he's quite the guy. He was quite the character on the ice too.
Yeah, he seems like a great player, man. So anyway, Paul, listen, man, we're pushing up. We're up over the 35-minute mark. I like to, near the end of the show, give whoever the guest is the floor. So anything you want to hype up, talk about, anything you want to promote, endorse, the floor is yours for a little bit, man. It's all you.
No, it was my pleasure to come on the show and help you out and answer, whatever questions I could. Uh, I'm real happy for our young officials coming up. Like we had Connor O'Donnell on the game tonight, and I've seen him about 3 times in the last week and a half, and you know what? He's really coming along good. He's working NHL. He's working still some American League, but mostly NHL, and I'm pretty sure he'll be hired full time as a NHL ref soon, which is good for him. And no, it's just fun. It's fun to be part of the game. It's fun to talk about it. All positive. The game is such a fast game now. It's all about speed now. Like we don't have any scrums anymore. Like if you can't skate nowadays, you will not be in the NHL. You have to be fast. You have to be great, have great agility, great foot speed, and you know, and that's what we're seeing out there is the best hockey players that we can find in North America and all over Europe out there. And hopefully we're putting the best referees we can find out there to make the game even better.
Yeah, 100%, man. And hey, thank you so much for coming on, Paul. I really appreciate it. I genuinely have an appreciation for the NHL officials and the tough job it is. I'd really like to have you come back on, and now I'm thinking about trying to if I get enough support for it, I want to try to get like maybe do like an NHL official like a deep dive, get like 3 or 4 of you guys on a show in the summer. We'll talk about a bunch of topics if that's something you might be interested in, man.
Yeah, that would be good, And I mean, I don't think I said anything on the air that I would get in trouble for with the league. I mean, it was all above board. Like, I didn't throw anybody under the bus, and you speak from the heart.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And like I said, I always have nothing but respect and appreciation for the job you guys do. Um, so like I said, man, I'd love to have you back on later on this summer, as long as you're available. I really appreciate you taking the time. Nothing but admiration and respect for you guys. High and wide fam, thanks for hanging out with us tonight. We'll check in with you guys later.
All right, man. Thank you, and it was my pleasure helping you out.
Thanks, Paul. Have a good night, man. Get
All
home
right,
safe.
all right, buddy. Thank you.
Yep, later.
Let me